for a period of your life, a period of time, you have friends or like that person you hang out with. And I started thinking about qualities about those friends and those people that you hang out with. Like, what is it that you like and enjoy about them? And so for me, again, humor and play, that sense of play. I mean, just think about when we were kids, when we were little. You're going to come over and play. We're going to go hang out at so-and-so's house and play. Play was a big part of life growing up, and that's where we connected. That's where our space was, where we were creative and where we kind of learned about each other, things that we like. We'd kind of talk about what we were feeling and things that were going on as kids through that place of play. And I think as adults, it's almost, I don't know who says it to us, if it's influencers or just because we get grown up and it's a societal, like, social norm. But at some point, people will say, "Oh, you need to grow up. You're an adult now, so you need to grow up." And it's sad, but I think for a lot of people, they lose that sense of play, and I don't think that's something that should ever be lost. And I think that in a relationship, one of the things that you do need to, especially early on when you're just figuring out this person and you're kind of testing to see, is this someone I really want to be with, is, do they have a good sense of humor? Do they have a sense of play? Because that, to me, is one of the most enduring qualities and characteristics in a person. It doesn't matter whether you're 5 or 95. If you have a good sense of humor and you have that sense of just like play and free spiritedness in you, that to me is just, that's priceless to me. Because, man, we're all going to at some point be shriveled and wrinkled and saggy and nasty and age spotty and gross and ear hair and everything. And at some point, it's not going to be about how someone looks. It's going to be about, what do you guys relate? How do you relate to each other? And that sense of humor and that play, man, that thing is so huge. And so for me, that's a huge priority. The other thing is I think you also need to learn to honor and respect space with each other. And you have to remember that when you came together and you met each other, you were individual people. Guess what? You're still individual people. You don't lose yourself in someone else. So I think part of being a best friend with someone is that you still have your likes and your preferences, and you respect and you honor that space. And I remember when Chrissy and I first got together, we listened to completely different types of music, different styles of music. And when you're young like that, when we met, and maybe even now for people it's still a thing, but music, like the music that we relate so much to, we have so many memories, and music's such a big part of our life and us that sometimes I've heard people say that's a deal breaker. Oh, so and so they like country. Well, you know what? I'm into reggae, and I can't really do country, or I'm into rap, or I'm into whatever that type of music is. And I would just say, don't let that be a deal breaker, because the person that you start with in your relationship, at least in my opinion, shouldn't be the person that you end with. And what I mean by that is you both need to be willing to grow and evolve, because who we were when we first met, I would say, is different than who we are now. I think there's elements that are still there that we've held on to in our essence of who we are as a person, who I've been, throughout my whole life. There's elements that are still there. But I would say that, I think that Chrissy and I both have evolved and changed in multiple areas in our lives. And we've done that together, which is really cool to be able to do that, to kind of look back and say, man, who were we when we first met? How did we first meet? Where were we at and where are we at now? The other thing I would say it's really important is, as friends, at times you're going to need to confide in one another and be able to be vulnerable and be honest and share and say how you're feeling. And so it's really important that for whoever's being vulnerable and honest, that the other person be willing to listen and to understand and see where they're coming from, and really just hold that space for them. And it's not about trying to fix it as a friend. Sometimes the best thing to say is nothing and just sit there and hold that space, but listen and really try to understand. A lot of relationships and problems that I've seen, and I'll say for myself, even early on, I struggled early on with listening. Like when Chrissy would talk, I would get distracted or I wouldn't be fully listening. And with your friends and with people that you care about, you learn about the boundaries and the things that they love and the things that they don't love. And I knew that from Chrissy, something for her that was really important was...
Hold on. Hannah, we're doing a live video. You need to turn off.
We have our teenager in here, and and she is
Thank you.
listening to music, and it went on our Google Home. So it's all good. It's all good. So we're good. Anyway, so again, guys, another example of how life is always can be messy, and it's never really what you plan it to be. That's perfectly fine. So, uh, but back to what I was saying is, I understood and learned from Chrissy the big thing for her was being heard and to listen to her and to understand where she's coming from. That was a huge priority for her. And so I honor and respect that because I know that if I'm going to have any shot of being in a relationship with her, much less be a best friend to her, if I do that thing better than anyone else and show up that way better than anyone else, it's going to be a lot more likely that I'm going to end up being her best friend. I'm going to end up being someone that she wants to be around, she chooses to be around. Um, the other thing is, I would say, is that you you start to want to do that. So if I do that and I listen to her and she knows that she can be safe around me and be vulnerable, guess who ends up being the person that she goes to when she wants to share something or she needs that support and she needs that love? She's going to come to me because if I'm the one that's listening to her and I'm not trying to talk about me, well, you think that's bad. What about me? And what about me and my stuff or whatever? You need to put that aside and you need to trust in the fact that if you continue to give in this relationship and friendships, best friends, it's no different. If you continue to just give and give and give and not worry about what do I get in return, I guarantee you that you're going to get so much more in return than you would ever imagine. Really, if you just give, 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 give. Now, the caveat to that I would say is in the early stages, there are people in this world that will want to take and take and take. And yes, because they've been hurt. But I'm talking about we've been in a relationship when we've already gone through some of the red flags that you see early on when you're dating someone or with trying to figure someone out, and pay attention to that. When I give and give and give in this relationship, does it seem like that they just want to continue to take and take and take, or pay attention to that kind of stuff, because that is something that you want to watch out for. Because I learned early on with Chrissy that she would give, but it was really about her feeling safe and feeling open and secure enough to be able to give, because she's a fairly private person. She's not really someone that kind of wears her emotions on her sleeve or kind of comes right out and just tells you everything that she's feeling. You earn that space with Chrissy. Like when she knows that she's safe and that you do care, she's going to open up to you more. And so for me, I really honor and respect that. I love that fact about her is that she made me honestly work for that, and I think that's a good thing. So I really appreciated that. The other thing I would say is in your relationship is be willing to share your honest thoughts with your partner and the person that you love, and having great conversations. Man, if you're just like open and you just like listen and you just speak from this place in your heart, or even just a thought you've had or something on your mind, and just openly share that with them. Make sure, I will say this, make sure that you've had enough sleep and make sure that you've eaten, because if you're tired and you're hungry, you're probably not going to be in the best space to have those deep, wonderful conversations. But honestly, we've had conversations. One of the best things we've done is done like a road trip, and we did a road trip to Las Vegas one year, and we just talked that whole trip down there. It was amazing. And from where we are, I mean, it's not that long of a drive. It's about a 6-hour drive, but that was the best part of that trip for me. I mean, it was awesome to go and see a show, but to be able to just have that time with Chrissy and just connect with her and just really talk and really just talk about life and all kinds of things and where you at. And you would think that after being married for over 20 years that there's that assumption, oh, you know everything about this person, but man, there's new things that I learn every day, and some of them I learn because of things that are good things, and sometimes I learn them because she's setting a boundary with me, and I'm acting like kind of an idiot. I mean, so that's okay. I mean, that's how we kind of figure each other out, and it's still, I love the fact that we've been married this long and we're still learning stuff about each other. But you can't really learn that stuff if you don't cultivate a space of trust and a space where communication and you're listening and respect. If that's there, they're going to open up and they're going to share, and you're going to go deeper into what really makes them them. Because if they don't feel, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I know for me, I don't get that deep with people if I don't feel like I'm safe, if I can trust them, if they're going to be really listening to what I have to say, or if they even care. So you have to, that's all kind of cultivating that. That's a process, right? And the other thing I would really stress is just to support and serve. Again, if you support and you serve that person that you love, it will come back your way, you guys. Do not score keep. Do not say, well, I did this week, or you did, only did this once, or whatever. People get so caught up in that stuff, and it's like you got to throw the whole scorecard out and just give love. And you know what? There's going to be moments where that person needs your love, and they're not really in the space to be able to give back, and they just need that support. And that's where the trust comes in. That's where all the other stuff that's been built up and cultivated over the years comes in. And it's like you don't expect it. You just want to do for them because they mean so much to you. They've given you so much over the years, and it's just second nature. It's just something that you do. And I'm trying not to say the word just as much, and I realize how much I'm saying it, but I don't mean to diminish that, the importance of that, but you will continue to give and give and give. And it just builds upon itself. So I've spoken a lot, and I'm going to allow Chrissy to share some insights and drop some knowledge too, because she definitely teaches me all the time. So go ahead.
So we really want some friends to join us, and they are probably trying to join us now. So I'm going to ask Doug to look at his phone and see if they can get on with us, and we can talk with another couple. But I would say that Doug has pretty much covered what I was going to talk about too. I feel like, when you have a best friend, it's like it's easy. It doesn't feel like you have to work that hard, right? But maybe in the beginning, if you've lost that friendship with your partner, maybe it will feel like a little bit of work, and that's okay. Spending time with that person, it's important to take that time. Like Doug said, we went on a road trip and we just talked, and it went deeper and deeper and deeper. And sometimes you don't have a lot of time to do that with family and work and responsibilities. So it's super important to plan a drive. It doesn't have to be anywhere fancy, like drive to a lake and stay one night at a cabin. And just taking that time to be together is super important. And both people have to want it. Like one person might be like, I want to be closer to my partner. And the other person is like, I'm just complacent. I'm not really into deepening this. And it's important that you have that conversation. If they're not willing, then there's obviously a problem, something deeper, and you can go deeper with that person. And we would love for people to ask questions when we're doing these videos. If you're on here or you listen to this video later, ask questions like, what challenges are you having from being able to strengthen your relationship? So I think it's important to take time for the things that are maybe a little bit more serious, like things that you have to get done, like say you have to do a budget, or you have to talk about something that you don't enjoy. Maybe some people enjoy talking about budgets and finances and stuff, but for us in the past it's been like, we don't want to do that. So making that somehow fun, after you do that, you get to go out to dinner, but also if it's like it just isn't fun, like make time for that. And then after you've talked about whatever that thing is that's like kind of heavy in your heart, then put that aside and let the everyday moments be more fun and playful, if that makes sense. So instead of like, I spent this money or that money or whatever topic is like not as fun for you, save that for just a certain day and time, and then the rest of the time you are staying in that playful fun. Don't bring up those things like throughout the day or throughout the week. Like just take that 1 hour or whatever during the week and talk about that hard thing, and then let the other times be super fun, like playful. So I put down some to-do items, some things that like some.
It sounds like my weekend.
Like your honey-do list. Um, so I would say that Doug and I aren't really as good as we should be about dates. I mean, we kind of like, we at least do one or two a month, and maybe it's just like staying home or whatever.
Well, your Sunday class,
But
though, I
I
think we
would,
kind of count that
yeah,
too,
so I
though, right?
teach yoga Sunday mornings, so he'll come up and do class, and then we'll sit in the hot tub, and that's kind of a date.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing a date at least once or twice a month, you got to put that on your schedule. You've got to, okay? So something fun, I would say once a week, but once or twice a month to start would be a good way to go about that. This one I put down is like accepting your partner where they are right now. And that can be so challenging because like maybe you're in a place to connect and you're feeling good, but they're not feeling good, and then you're letting their not feeling good affect you. And it's just really important for you to stay in that playful, fun space. So you're doing things for yourself that, for me, it's dance. For you, it might be gardening, but you're doing those things and letting the energy of those things move into your relationship, so it doesn't become like a separate thing when you when your partner shows up. Like, I have a lot of fun dancing, and that energy of play and freedom and all that, I need to not leave that in the classroom, but actually bring that energy with me when I am going to see Doug later that day. So I think that's really important. Another one I thought about was, I remember in high school when you probably remember this, you have your friend group and there's gossiping. And I remember hearing gossiping in my friend group, and it would make me feel like I was being talked about, and I probably was. And so I think it's super important not to go to your girlfriends or guy friends, or even if we've done this before when we're with couples and we're like, oh, he does this or he does that, and we're like putting each other down in front of our friends.
Yeah,
and we're just really not down with doing that anymore.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Like when you're at a party and you're like talking, and you're like, well, let me tell you about something that drives me crazy about Chrissy in front of everyone, because it's
and
like somehow this is
joking,
the space
like,
to do it, because I apparently can't tell her about that in confidence, or maybe I feel like she doesn't listen, so let me share it with everyone. And the reality is it's nobody's business. I mean, it's really it's not, and it's not anyone's business, except that's if it's really that big of a deal, guess who needs to have the conversation, right?
I think so. It's important to be playful, and maybe sometimes I think to us we thought it was funny to like make fun of each other, not even make fun of each other. Well, yeah, kind of, but like almost like sarcastically putting the other person down, but it's like you can laugh about it. But honestly,
I think you have to make sure that both people are in a good space with that too. That you understand that there's a boundary, it has to be set there. It's like, hey, we're not going to bring up this thing or whatever, but if you're the type of people that can laugh at yourselves and you feel comfortable with that, I think it also depends on the company that you're in. But
we've learned a lot through that, being with friends, and then we're joking about something, and one of us says, that really kind of hurt when you said that. Like, I don't appreciate that. So being mindful about how you're talking about your partner with other people. So I've been thinking about one of the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, be impeccable with your word. And I feel like Doug's in that space too of he's taking out the word just and we're working on the words we say and that they're powerful and from a place of love. So are we able to get our friends on here?
So they're on there live. They're in the car, so they're listening live. So we're good.
But then
I sent out a request to a bunch of people.
It doesn't say joined here, so there's no way. Can you guys comment? If you can hear us, make a comment, and then we'll test to see if we can bring.
Well, they texted me and said they're heading back to the car, so they're picking up some dinner. So, anyway,
okay.
So it's all good.
Not gonna happen.
But we have people here like my Aunt Phyllis, who I love so much, and we have our neighbor Amanda. So thank you for joining us. So we appreciate you guys being here.
We're just playing around. If you have a question, throw it out. We're still new to doing this video stuff. So
if there's something you guys want us to talk about too, we won't say who brought it up or anything. I mean, if we'll respect the confidentiality of that too as well. Just so you know a little bit about me, um, I practiced clinically marriage and family therapy for several years before I went to the current job where I'm at. So I went to school for that and studied it. But I'll tell you what, and I know a lot of people agree with this, that the education you get in school is really nothing compared to the education you get in life and when you actually go out and practice and do these things. And as much as I thought I was this, great therapist and I learned all this information, this knowledge, guys, I still screw stuff up all the time. I'm human, and I've got the person sitting here right next to me to prove it, to shake her head and say, yes, Doug still screws things up, because I do. And that's what's the beautiful thing about life, is that we're continuing to learn and evolve. I think the difference is are we willing to learn and grow from that? And one of the things we always talk about is you can say you're sorry, but it's really about showing that you're sorry. It's not, talk's cheap. And I'm a person that tends to watch people's mannerisms and their behaviors versus what they say. I'm in the therapy world. It was a CBT approach, which is cognitive behavioral. I believe that your thoughts create your behaviors, and you may say that you're doing something, but realistically, I think we know deep down when it's BS, and calling ourselves on it if we're really practicing what we're preaching or saying to people. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But that was my first go. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Good job.
Yeah. So, in terms of just think about again. Okay, so just again, think about a best friend that you've had, and again, if you've been in a relationship a long time, likely the person that you're with is your best friend, which I understand. And friends come and go in your life, and what are those qualities that you appreciate in someone that's a best friend? And if you don't feel like your spouse is your best friend, or that that person that you're with, your partner, whoever you're with, why is that? We need to ask those questions. Nothing interesting comes from the answer. It comes from asking the question. And we need to ask those questions and say, why is it not this way? Why is it this way and not this way? Right? We need to ask those types of questions. And we need to ask the hard questions. We need to have the hard conversations. I found a lot of times people aren't willing to really have those difficult conversations. And I was amazed when I was practicing how many people were very surface level about things, and how many different kind of boundaries and things that they didn't really kind of like test to see. The first year of our marriage was a lot of it was about testing boundaries. I remember regularly whoever's in the shower wondering, okay, am I going to get cold water dumped on me in this shower while I'm in the shower? And just all different kinds of boundaries that you test in that first year of marriage. And I wonder if they like this kind of thing, or if they don't. That's all about figuring that stuff out. But I suggest again, I think it's crucial that we express and communicate what we're feeling. Because if something bothers us and we just keep it inside, guess what happens? We build up resentment, and it's like that little wedge, and it's like this little thing inside of you that may seem little at that time, and you brush it off and you don't say anything. But what you do is, over a period of time, you build up that resentment, and then one day they accidentally step on your foot, or they drop a glass, and all hell breaks loose, and you just unleash 10 years of resentment for something you've been holding in. And it's not fair to the other person, because if she doesn't know I had an issue with something 5 years ago, why am I holding that against her? Because I never communicated that to her. And so you have to communicate these things, and that's what friendships are about, is sharing, enjoying that together. And I think when the person you're with is best friend status, when you really would prefer to do things with them and no one else. And I find myself at times when I'm with my friends and hanging out, I enjoy it. We have a great time. But there's that part of me where I'm like, I wish Chrissy was here.
There is
like
a
you're sharing
comfort
something, you're
there,
like, I want them.
even though we're still like working on ourselves and working on our relationship and things like that. There's a sense of comfort being with that person.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think to create that, it's like a constant, like you said, conversation. What we've been doing is checking in with each other more throughout the day. When he's at work, I will call him and just say, what's up? What's on your mind?
Right.
Whereas before, I mean, a lot of times I feel like it was a call because I'm like, I'm going to the store. What do you need? You know? And now it's like, hey, where are you? And I think it's because, you know, at one point I had a moment where I was struggling with something and I stayed quiet for a really long time. And then he created a story, and it was like the time of not talking
Right.
can create an
Well, you fill the
unseen
space.
drama almost.
You're filling the space, right? I was filling the space with my story.
Yeah, and I
So,
was kind of like, okay, I just need space. I don't need anybody around me, and that's hard for Doug because if you know him, he's like touchy feely, like huggy Dougie.
that's the
And
way,
so
yeah. It's like
now
that
I
language
have
of
to,
love, right?
you know,
I mean,
get out of my comfort zone to
yeah.
be a little bit more like, hey, you know, touch, what's up, and talk. Even though I am introverted, extroverted, but the introvert in me can go a long time without talking, no touch, all that.
And you know what? But I mean that's okay. And the thing is I can't, because I can be extroverted. I can't want or really push to have Chrissy be something that she's not or someone that she's not. And I have to honor that space because to force her, a person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. And I really believe that. And so if I force her to try to be more extroverted and be something she's not, she's probably going to be a little resistant, maybe even a little resentful for that. And I have to meet her where she's at. And so much of life is about that, is meeting people. Like when I was seeing clients, I met them where they were at, and I couldn't want it more than they wanted it. And we have to want these things for ourselves individually. And we also both appreciate our space. I mean, we love having our personal time. We love hanging out. She'll do girls' night. If I go out with guys, I mean, it's fine. But we understand it's important to have that separate time. But I'm speaking honestly. Like she's my person. She is the person I want to hang out with and I want to be around. And she's honestly she's got all these great qualities about her and these things that I'm learning over a period of time. And that's what I want.
And I think too, if your partner's not really working on the relationship, just keep working on you. Keep working on
Yes.
your friendship with you, how much you love yourself. Have fun with yourself. Go do things that you enjoy. Buy yourself flowers. Like, do all the things
Yes.
that you would want a best friend to do for you and how you'd want them to show up for you. And then
Yes.
you're filling that place of like, oh, I'm my own best friend. And then I feel like attracts like. So if I'm in that good space, I feel like people around me are like, hey, I want to be part of that energy.
Right.
So when you're having that fun, playful friendship energy, then you're attracting more people that want to be part of that.
Yes. Yeah, don't be a crap magnet. I mean, honestly, like, that negative energy. We talk with our daughter about this a lot too. She's a teenager in high school, and there's, I get it. I mean, that age is rough. I mean, you're like, don't really want to be there. It can be a negative environment, and you're still figuring stuff out, and it can be rough. It can be rough. Well, and I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. But what I do know is that when I have my face is looking like don't mess with me, just get out of my or I'm not happy, who in their right mind is going to come up and approach me unless it's someone that knows me that genuinely is concerned for me. But I'm going to give off this vibe of f you, like get out of my freaking face, and I don't want to do that. But then if I question why is no one wanting to be around me, it's all about looking within and okay, what is it that I'm doing that I could do differently? And all of this, everything we're talking about, you guys, all starts from within, and that's
the
where it
main
has to
thing,
start.
like why we call this connected couples is, we've got to connect more deeply with ourselves and know ourselves more
Sure.
before we can deepen that connection with other people.
Oh yeah.
We're all connected, so we're wired for connection. We're wired to have friendships, and I feel like I was listening to this today about attachment and the things that you want. If you're desperate, you're going to repel it. So being in that place of like, I'm a magnet for good energy and good people, and just everything that you want, you bring it in here, and then like attracts like, and that comes into your life.
Yes. Oh, that's so huge. And one of the things too, I know it says connected couples, but if you're someone that's newly single or you've been single for a long time, you know, I personally I would love to get recommendations and advice from people that have been in relationships for a long period of time if I was single, because I need to, if I want to create a relationship like that, why not go and talk to people that have created that relationship, and what is it that I need to do and improve it myself? And just like what she just said, like attracts like. Think of it like a frequency, on like on a radio, you're trying to dial it in. If you adjust your dial to a different frequency, you're going to start seeing people and encountering people on that same frequency. And if you adjust it to another frequency, you're going to encounter people on that frequency. And pay attention, is that a high frequency or a low frequency? And that's why, oh man, I had so many clients that would come in and they're like, why do I keep dating the same people? Why do I keep getting the same relationship? Why is this my fourth marriage? What's happening? What's going on? And I've had people come to me and say, fix them, fix her, fix him. And I would always look at the person that was pointing the finger. I would look at them and say, okay, well, let's work on what you have most control over right now, which is you. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You'll always have more control over that. And you'll always have the power of choice, no matter what. So what do you choose that you want in a relationship? And it starts with you. If you want a more loving relationship, be more loving with yourself. Mm-hmm. If you want a more trusting relationship, trust yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how when you start to change your frequency and act and behave in a certain way, people and things in your life will start to fade away and move away and change. And to me, that's a sign of growth. Mm-hmm. And it can work positively and it can work negatively. But if you're trying to create positive experiences in your life, be that change, right? Be that change that you want so badly. Create that in your life. And use your voice. Man, you got a voice, and use that. Don't hold it inside. Don't go to the end of your life with regret and saying shoulda, woulda, coulda. I wish I would have done this or said this or done that. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of people that are older couples that are just roommates, and they're just living and existing in the same home, and they don't really talk. They're literally in different rooms, and it's that is not the idea of what you want there. And I imagine when they started, they weren't planning on that. But
if you don't put in the work and the time and the dedication to your own personal growth and the strengthening of your relationship, that's how it's going to end up. You're going to end up being roommates. So everything that we're talking about is to help people out there to have a long-lasting relationship where it stays playful, it stays fun, it's exciting. When you want to go see a best friend, you're like, oh yeah, I'm so excited I get to go see my best friend. That's how it should feel.
Yes.
So
100%. Yeah, you want that. And and honestly, I don't care. I mean, if it sounds cheesy, I'm just speaking the truth, you guys. But you'll know that that's the person that you want to be around, and you want to hang out with. And again, looking from within, what do you want to create in your relationship? You know what? You have every right to have a beautiful, loving relationship, and create it now. Do it today. You 100% can do that. It's going to take work, but if you do the internal work within yourself, man, it is so worth it. It is so worth it. There's so many things that Chrissy and I have gone through and dealt with in our time together, and to me, it's just strengthened everything else. I just think of fibers, like in a muscle or something, where it's just they just continue to grow. It's like the roots in grass, right? There's periods where we go without water and we're kind of struggling, but those roots start to grow deeper when we stay together. And so when something big comes along, guess what? It's not going to tear us apart. If anything, it's going to make us stronger and bring us closer together.
Yeah, I think we've learned the most from the hard challenges that we've had.
Oh, that's where you learn the most in life, is when you screw stuff up and you make mistakes and you just fall flat on your face and shit the bed. I mean, like that is honestly where you learn the most in life, I believe, is, I mean, because again, if you have all the answers and you never make mistakes, those roots are going to be super, super short. And when something big comes along, it's just going to carry you away and you're not going to know what to do. So, that's part of what youth is about in early parts of relationship is you make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Now, don't intentionally go out trying to hurt someone and make a mistake, but you're going to make mistakes. I remember vividly, like in our relationship when we were first starting out, like things that I would say or do, like again where I wasn't listening. I was bringing up the one where we were driving one time and we were on a date, and I looked over at Chrissy, and I'm like, "You look really good tonight, actually." And I said the word "actually," and I don't know why. And like as soon as I said it, I was like, "What are you doing, Doug? Like, why did you say that?"
Probably because I normally just was in gym clothes and a ponytail, so it's okay.
But yeah, but I mean, it was. But that's fine though. I mean, be who you are. But I mean, it's just stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure you could probably tell me a lot of mistakes that I've made. I'm sure there's plenty
Yeah,
that
but
come to mind.
that I don't focus on those things. So if I'm
Yeah,
not focusing on those things and I'm focusing on the good, then that's what I see more of. When I'm like, I
good point.
want a red VW bug, like I will see five every single day or
Right,
whatever. I'll just see them a lot.
right.
And so whatever I'm focusing on, I will get more of. So I see a lot of couples where, the one of the partners points out the negative things. He or she doesn't do this or do that. And, you know, unless that person is sitting on the couch all day long, just watching TV, they're not injured or anything, like
Just check it
they're
out.
doing something, right? They're
Right,
driving the kids to school or
right.
they're making a meal or, whatever that is. So even acknowledging, using gratitude every day, thinking of things that that person does for you, that's what's going to expand in your awareness
That's such a
more.
great point. That is a huge point. I know one of the terms I keep bringing up in here, but it's so true, you guys. We do it so often. Is confirmation bias. So again, if you look at the person and you say, "Man, they are so lazy. I'm so tired of them," you know, just they just don't do anything. They're just lazy. And guess what you're going to observe? Guess what you're going to notice? Just like the red Volkswagen Bug that she was talking about, you're going to see times where they're just sitting around and they're not doing anything. And it's like, how do you know they're not doing anything? But in your mind, confirmation bias tells you, oh, I'm going to pay attention to the times that confirm my bias of them being lazy. So I'm going to pay attention to those times because when they're actually up and doing work, somehow subconsciously I don't notice that. I don't see that they're doing these things. But man, if they're sitting around, they're not doing anything, and they're stagnant, I'm going to absolutely pay attention to that, and I'm going to bring it up to them. And maybe I'm not. Maybe I'll just keep a mental score check sheet, and then next time we get in an argument, I'll just kind of unload all that on them. And that is not the right way. That's not the right way to do it. So if you want someone in your life to do all these things that you want, you need to reflect those things too. So you need to start within you. If you want, again, more honesty, you want someone that's, more loving, be that thing that you want. And it's going to get you there. And whether it's in this relationship that you have right now or if it's in the next one, be what it is that you want in your relationship. And that person's either going to say, "You know what? I appreciate this and I'm here and I love you and I'm going to put forth the effort and I want to change and grow, and there's things that I don't like about myself. Thank you for, I was going through a difficult time. Thank you for holding space for me and while I was dealing with what I was dealing with, but I want to make changes too." Or they may say, "You know what? This is really who I am and where I'm at." And at that point, I personally believe it's best. My goal as a therapist wasn't to try to keep people together. My goal was to have peace in those individual relationships, and whatever that looked like, whether that peace was in them being together or that peace was in them being apart. I mean, we all deserve in this world to live in a space of peace and happiness, and that's available to each and every one of us. Um, are we willing to make the effort to create that for ourselves and love ourselves enough to create that? That's really the question, I think. So, uh, love yourself enough to give the very best in your relationship, and I guarantee you guys, you're going to see differences. You'll see differences. You'll see changes. It will happen. Now, if you've been in that relationship for a longer period of time, it may take longer. Expectation. Oh my gosh, did we even really talk about like expectation?
That's a whole call.
Expectation will kick you in the butt, you guys. If you
You're
have
keeping this so censored. Is it for our Utah community?
I,
Normally, he'd be talking a
well,
lot
it's fine. It's
It's
fine.
okay.
It's fine. I mean, it's whatever. Maybe it's because our daughter's in here, but she probably wouldn't care. But it will kick you in the butt, you guys. It will absolutely, because if you have expectations of people and you think they need to show up this way, they should do this. I want them to do this. They're not doing this, and here's how often I want this to happen. You can't have that expectation of someone. And I'll tell you right now, if you've got a lot of expectations in your life, I know from my experience that the more expectations I had and the more hard and fast I held to those expectations, I wasn't really as happy. And if those expectations now were for myself and for things that I want and I have more control over, yes, I understand. Yes, I have more control over those things, but you also have to be careful with the expectations you set for yourself. Because if you set unrealistic expectations and you're not achieving them, you're going to be miserable. But do not expect things out of that person that you love, them to be a certain way or show up a certain way. They are an individual. They are a human being. They have their own journey as well. Now, I understand you want them, like if someone's struggling and they're not doing very well, you want for them, you want these good things for them. But like Chrissy talked about, we've had couples before where they go about it the wrong way. It's like they want them to be healthy, but their way of telling them to be healthy is they would put them down for being overweight or unhealthy. Or they would call it out in front of friends and say, see how they do this. And yeah, they don't do this, or they want them to listen. Yeah, see how they didn't even listen. That negative space is not a good space to be in. And also, if you're using confirmation bias and that person is doing the very thing that you want, you're not paying attention to it, guess what's going to happen? That person's going to be like, I don't know what I can do. I don't know how I'm going to win here, because no matter what I do, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. So why even try? And then they just check out. What do you think?
I just got a question for my friend, so
Oh.
I think you can answer the question. So
You
yeah,
want to read it?
I think everything you're saying is great. I'm in a space right now where I'm motivating myself from a place of love. So I actually feel like I'm not even expecting anything from myself. I'm more like, how can I be the best version of myself? How can I live from my highest self? And I'm not into expectations right now at all. Like, even since I'm into fitness and health, and lately I've been kind of eating whatever, and I'm like, I need to get back on track. But I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it from a place of love, because I love myself. I love my body. I'm appreciative of my body. And really, I think we're to the point. I know Doug's working on himself. I'm working on myself. So I don't have any kind of like, oh, you need to do this or you need to do that, really. Do you pick up that energy from me lately of like, I'm trying to get you to do something that...
No, and when I was joking about the honeydew list, I mean, these are things that actually needed to be done, and it comes from a space of, oh, hey, here's some things while I have them in my head, I'm going to mark them down. Let's get these things done this weekend. And it's not like, well, you did 2 of the 7 things, so therefore we're not going to have sex, or I'm going to withhold something, like I'm not going to cook this, or we're not going to do this thing, or we're not going to go see this movie, or you can just stay at home, or whatever. It's not anything like there's like a punishment or anything like that involved. It's, here's things that I want to get done,
Yeah.
and I mean, I've never taken it that way.
I'm using the yoga approach. It's like intention. What's your intention? Let go of expectations.
Right.
Judgment, all that stuff. It relieves your partner, and it gives them space to live their life.
Right.
And another point that I had, what I was thinking about when you were talking is, I believe that everything that we want is inside of us. So
Yeah, all the
it
tools,
all
everything
comes
you
down
need. Yeah.
to we either want some kind of love, acceptance, peace, happiness, joy, whatever it is that we think that we'll find in having a best friend. And we can, and we experience that together.
Right.
But I believe if we feel it within ourselves first, it's almost like I don't really need anybody else to do that for me. I already have all of that. And then us coming together, working on our own joy and happiness, then it just builds from there. And so I would say if your partner's not really working on themselves, you don't feel like they're your best friend, don't worry about it. Like everything you want from a best friend, you can experience right here,
Yeah.
and then you will attract either another friend or an experience, or maybe your partner will be interested and they'll start to shift. But letting go of the attachment, if that shows up, is such a powerful thing to do.
It's so true. Whitney Houston was right. I mean, learning to love yourself is the greatest gift of all. I mean, let's be honest, right? I
Are
mean,
you going to break out in song?
no, because if I start singing, people are going to be, I'm out. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty horrible. But that is an excellent point is, yes, I agree with that. When you know that you have all of this is already inside of you and you're already whole. I mean, one of the worst lines in a movie was "You complete me," and we're not two halves of a whole. I believe we're two wholes that come together to make something even better.
Well,
And
we maybe there's those that don't realize that they're whole. They haven't tuned into that frequency and
that's
worked
what
on themselves, and so they're coming in broken, and it becomes a codependent kind of a situation.
well, right, yeah, because if you're wanting someone to complete you, you're right. That's where people become enmeshed with each other and they're codependent. They lose their sense of identity. I heard that a lot too from people that were like empty nesters. They invested so much in their kids and they lost their identity in their kids, and then their kids move away and they don't know who they are anymore and what they like or what they want. But yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, it's all inside of you. The everything you need in this world is already inside of you. The way I look at it is you're going to have aha moments if you're actively working to try and improve your life, and whether that's you're looking for to increase knowledge, or you're looking to gain something on a spiritual level, whether that's with God, universe, source, whatever you're trying to you're pulling from and trying to create in your life. That is there, and it gets awakened. You get that feeling inside of you where it's kind of like that tingly, like good sensation and feeling is when you're on the right track, and when you're actually learning and growing. And growth, actually, I think growth kind of hurts a little bit. Growth is a little bit scary and anxious, and it kind of feels like you're gonna have diarrhea sometimes because you're so scared because you're about to go do something that feels a little bit out of your comfort zone. That's, to me, that's what growth feels like. Growth isn't, growth feels
It's
a little
scary.
bit painful and scary in the moment.
Yeah.
But
If
when you
you
look
set-
back,
Oh, sorry.
go go ahead.
No, if you set the intention, I want to connect deeper with my partner, I want to attract a best friend, going within and just already feeling like that is part of your reality.
Yeah.
And then the universe feels that and your intention's out there, and then you let it go. If you keep thinking, where's my best friend? Where's my best friend?
Right.
Why isn't this person showing up? It's desperate energy.
Right.
You're going to continue to say that over and over. As soon as you step into what a best friend looks like, playful, fun, carefree, just joyful, whatever you want to attract, then that will just come to you, And honestly, if it doesn't, who the hell cares? Because you're having a good time with yourself, right?
Don't have expectation. Just let go of the expectation and live your best life, and those things will come your way. It's amazing how that stuff happens, but it will happen. But you have to put yourself in a position. It doesn't just happen by laying in bed saying "Om." It doesn't happen that way. That could be part of a process of improving your life and yourself, because I personally benefit a lot from meditating and from having that quiet space with myself. But I also understand and know it's not just that. It's a combination of things that I'm doing in my life that are going to help me get to where I need to be. And it's scary to get out of your comfort zone. I mean, I still have stuff that I struggle with getting out of my comfort zone about, and it's a process. So just because Chrissy and I are sitting here on the screen right now talking does not mean that we've got everything figured out about relationships, you guys. I can't stress that enough.
I
We're
was
still
learning
human.
about
We're still figuring stuff out.
polyamory yesterday, just so I could have a conversation. I don't even know. There's so much going on now with relationships and couples and thruples and all this. It's like, okay, I have a lot to learn. And so we're almost to an hour because we can talk a lot.
We can.
Right?
And thank
so,
you for
like,
the
we'll just
people
put you
sticking
to
around
bed.
with us.
Like, you just put this in your ear, and like, oh man, they're just gonna put me right to sleep. We'll just keep talking. But I think we should wrap this up now,
Yeah.
Dougie Doug.
Yeah.
And why don't we each share 5 things that you can work on to create that deeper connection, draw in your best friend, the things we've talked about. Like, if the person that's listening is like, I gotta write some of these things down, what are the 5 things you want them to write down right now? Ready?
Yes. So I would say my first thing is actually 5 things. So my first thing would be, make a habit, you guys, of when you go to bed at night, make a habit of telling those people that you love 5 things you're grateful for about them. And I want you to not just blurt them all out. I want you to actively think about throughout the day 5 things you're grateful for, because when you do that, that shows that you're also more engaged in what they're saying and what they're doing. So you pay attention to something they did that day that, like, oh my gosh, that really helps. They made that phone call, they picked this thing up, or they moved this Lego thing so I didn't step on it and kill myself tripping over it or whatever. Pay attention to the little things that are happening, because the little things aren't really little things. They all add up to big things, I think. And so pay attention to those. So before you go to bed at night, tell each other 5 things you're grateful for. And I'll tell you this, if you're pissed at each other, it's really hard to stay pissed at someone when they've just told you 5 thoughtful things that they're grateful for about you. And that's been my experience. It's hard for me to be frustrated with Chrissy or pissed if she's just literally put a lot of thought into 5 things that she's grateful for about me. It completely just diffuses that energy. So that's one, is expressing that gratitude on a regular basis. The other thing I would say, as far as creating that best friend, is serve them. Do things for them and give of yourself, freely and lovingly, and do things for them. And they don't even have to be around and see it. I mean, if it's something that you clean or straighten or you do for them, or in their car, you kind of set that little cup of coffee in the car for them, or do something for them, they're going to notice that. I guarantee it. And man, I love that stuff. Like when I get a little pleasant surprise of hey, or a little note or something like that, or it could be something as simple as writing a message in the mirror, when it's steamed up, or whatever that is. But just little thing. It's those little things add up to be such big things. I think probably number 3, the most important thing is, and this I'm going to speak from experience, you guys. If you're frustrated with something that's going on, you need to step back and ask yourself, am I telling myself a story right now? This is something that I struggle with. I'm very creative, and I can make up great stories about situations and things that happen. Like, you remember Chrissy mentioned earlier about when she'd be quiet, or she'd be kind of in an introspective place in her life, and she'd be quiet, or she wasn't coming up and touching me, because that touch is, I very much love that. And I would tell myself a story of, oh, is this why, or what's going on, or did I do this? And then I start playing the guessing game of, what did Doug do wrong, or what's going on, that kind of thing. So that, to me, that's very important, is check the stories. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Check the stories. Check the stories that you're telling yourself, okay? Then the other 2 things I would say is, I think that, do you spend your time throughout the day? I mean, are you laughing together? Are you guys really enjoying and inviting that play? So if you haven't laughed that day, with each other, create an opportunity or a moment or something just to laugh about and enjoy that laughter together as a couple. That's so essential, really, to do that. And then the other thing I would say is take time, and usually for Christy and I, it's when we're going to bed, but take time to share and just talk about any thoughts that you had, or something that happened that day. Hey, this happened, or this, and take those moments to really just sit and talk. Our kids are teenagers, and man, those moments are just, they feel like they can be fleeting moments at times because they're going to grow up and have their own lives at some point, and these moments when you're climbing into bed with each other at night and to really just sit and talk and express and share what happened throughout the day, it's such a nice thing. And just hold space for the other person. Don't be like me and don't try to fix everything. Just listen and just hold space for them. Those would be my 5 things.
Wow. All right.
I talk
Good
a
job.
lot,
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry.
do. It's okay.
I'm gonna shut up now.
Um, I would say play. Number 1. Have fun. Go do something. Like, figure it out. Like, how can you have fun with that person? And if they're not having fun, then be like, whatever, I'm going to go have fun. Whatever. It's important to have fun and play. I would say the next thing is check in. Like, every day. We're getting better at this, right? Like, I feel like for a long time there was a lot of what's the word? Unsaid things. It was just like we'd come home and there were things like we were holding in and we didn't talk about. And now I'm getting more courageous to just say the thing that I really kind of want to stuff it. I'm just like, I don't know. So just
It's an
saying
easier thing
it,
to do,
it's
yeah.
like, and then he can say something like perfect, like, well, that doesn't matter because right now we're in this moment and we don't even know if that's going to happen. Or, it's like you share that with a friend and then a lot of times they can just diffuse and just shift your focus and your perception. So that's really cool in a friendship. Let's see. So one thing that I heard recently was when your children walk in the room, act excited, and maybe you really are excited, but like really show them that their presence is important. So when they walk in, you're like, hey, and I thought about that today. I was like, I need to do that for Doug because sometimes he'll come home and I'm like working away and he walks in and I'm still working. I know he's there. And then he comes over and like kisses me. He most of the time always kisses me first before we go to bed or says goodnight first. So I know I need to be better at that. But just be excited. Like when that person's like, make an effort. You know what the effort is. Make that little extra effort to just be playful or hey, I missed you, or send a sexy text or something like, okay, whatever. But just like that extra effort,
Yeah.
Then let's see, a couple more: holding space, accepting where they are, and active listening. Yeah.
That was 6.
Okay, well then I'm done. Because I'm getting tired.
That's okay. I'm sure you guys are getting tired. We know that there's people on here right now in later time zones too, so we want to respect that too. Thank you. We love you guys. That is so awesome that you guys joined us tonight for this. And please, if you want to share questions, we've had some people say, hey, can I share something or whatever offline. If you want to do that, it'd be great, and we could bring it up in a future episode that we do. We won't mention your name, and if you say, please don't mention my name, we want to honor and respect that and respect your confidentiality. You guys, there's questions out there that people have and things that they want to talk about, and if we can do it in this space and allow other people to see that, we all have had these experiences, or maybe not all of us, but a lot of people can relate to this situation, then we need to do that. The idea here, again, it's called Connected Couples for a reason, because we're creating this connection, and we all have stuff that we're dealing with and working on, and let's why not try to grow and flow and do this together, guys.
For show.
Grow,
Skivizzle.
flow, for show.
Madizzle. For shizzle. All right, we're big fans of Snoop Dogg, so we're the Skivizzles. Have a good night.
Thanks, you guys. Take care. You're so funny. So what was she saying? Oh, we need to pause.
Oh, bye.